Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is Jimmy Church. Before I bring him on, I want to remind you that you can always get new regular episodes free on Rokfin, Odysee, and all podcast platforms. You're going to definitely want to check us out on Rokfin. That's where you get all of our premium content that you can't find on any other platform. You get our regular shows and all of the premium content from every creator on Rokfin, which has grown so much. You should really go check it out. You can get a free account and check out who's on there. Also, we have our merch store up, which means you can get our t-shirts, stickers, bags. There's all kinds of cool stuff in there. Click the link in the description, check that out, or you can go to fknstore.net. And finally, if you guys are reaching that stage in life like me, where you're getting a few of those gray hairs, check out C60 Purple Power. It may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man. It's helped me with so much inflammation, energy, well-being, and you can even get C60 for your pets so your pets can feel great too. Just click that link in the description and you get 10% off your order plus free shipping. Tonight I want to welcome Jimmy Church. He is a radio and television host for the Game Changer Network and the History Channel A&E networks. He is host of Fade to Black. He was also a weekend and fill-in host on Coast to Coast AM. He also co-stars on History Channel's Hangar 1, the UFO Files, and the time travel conspiracy show Time Beings, The Unexplained, which was called Breaking Mysterious internationally, and he has also appeared on Expedition X on the Travel Channel and featured in the documentary UFO Cover-Ups Secrets Revealed. Jimmy, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Chris, you caught me before breakfast, but my first cup of coffee. So I'm ready to go. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Like you said earlier, I can't complain earlier. Life is good. And, it was great hanging out with you in Laughlin for the mega conference in June. Like I told you there, I was listening to Fade to Black and Coast to Coast way before Forbidden Knowledge News ever started. And you were one of those radio hosts that really inspired me to start this show. So thank you for that. You've been a real inspiration for me.
And thank you for that. And when I hear stuff like that, it lets me know that I can't take my foot off the gas, that I've always got to do better than I did the day before, right? You just can't relax.
Yeah, man, it's surreal having you here right now. And I'm excited for today. I really am, because we got a lot to talk about. The past few years have been unusual, to say the least. Besides everything else that happened in 2020, which we won't get into, we've basically been told that UFOs are not only real, but our government and military don't seem to have any idea what the hell they're dealing with, or at least that's what we're being told, and that's what they're portraying.
Right.
We're going to get into this, but I also want to talk about the mistrust that a lot of this community has with this mainstream information, which I can't blame them. I don't really trust a lot of it either, but I'm just a crazy conspiracy guy. Now, this is your first time on the show, which I said, it is surreal, but for my audience that may not be familiar, you started in sports radio, right?
I actually did.
Wow. What brought you to convert to paranormal UFOs?
Well, that was always the big plan. I'll make this really brief because the story itself, the journey is a long story. But I wanted to get into radio. And so I graduated from school and left my music career behind me. And this is back in around 2008. And I thought to myself, probably the best and easiest way into broadcast radio would be the sports route, and that I would get into that, get my feet on the ground, and then pull the big switcheroo on whoever my employer was, and then get into this other stuff. And my original vision, so the sports radio thing lasted about 3 years, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. But my vision was to do all of the above, which was sports, cars, music, conspiracy, ghost, UFO. If I can do a show that had all of that in it, because that's me, that's who I am,
right,
that I would be happy. So we decided to get out of sports radio and start a new show. And that show was originally entitled Jimmy Church Against the World. And we cut all the audio, the spots, the websites, artwork. We were ready to go when Art Bell decided to quit again. And so when that happened, I immediately reached out to Art and Keith, Keith Rowland, his producer, and I think one of the owners of Art's Network, and said, "Hey, I've got a show. Instead of competing, let's join forces. If Art is left, I'll step in." And that was those emails were like on a Sunday. They immediately responded and said, "Hey, okay." And then we talked for like 24 hours. And then it was like on Monday, they said, "Okay, are you ready to go live on Wednesday?" or something like that. It's like, what? Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And when that happened, we decided to change the name of the show. Instead of Jimmy Church Against the World, which was going to be sports and food and everything else, that we would just focus on conspiracies and UFOs and ghosts and things like that. So that Fade to Black happened at that moment. We went back. We had 24 hours to recut all of our audio, the radio spots, the commercials, the website, logos, and we redid everything in 24 hours. And the next day I went live on the air. So that's the short version of it. But very early on, I couldn't help but talk about things that I loved, which was music and tacos and guitars and movies, breakfast cereals, whatever. And I always, just freedom of thought. I was just being myself. And that's what Fade to Black has evolved into. We don't necessarily cover conspiracies every night. I've had musicians on the show. I've had actors on the show. I've had comedians on the show. I've had directors on the show. Just everything out there that I just find interesting that I want to talk about is what Fade to Black is. Sometimes we'll do Egypt for a week. Sometimes we'll do life after death for a week, and not discuss UFOs at all. I know that one of my favorite things is UFOs, and certainly with what is going on today, UFOs are front and center.
Right.
But it's just wherever my mind is where I go that week or that night, and that's it. That's the short version.
Yeah, that's great, and that's definitely a big part of what I loved about Fade to Black and what you brought to it. Now, of course, you mentioned UFOs. That's gonna be a big part of our discussion because of everything going on. And let's talk about this. Whenever 2017 came around, and they first brought out that New York Times article, I think that was the first bombshell that we saw. Now, I'm an experiencer, and I've been in this for a long time. I've been looking at researching UFOs for a while, talking to people that are in this for a long time, other experiencers, other contactees, and you've been in this forever, too. So, we kind of have an idea of not what's going on, but we have been through the basics. We know what the abduction phenomenon is about. We know what most scenarios are like, and I've experienced something myself. So we bring a little bit of an insider view into the table. Now, when this came out in 2017, everybody else is starting to get a view at this, and people are starting to become more used to the idea of UFOs. How do you feel about the current climate right now and what it's become? Are you kind of excited about it, nervous, or what do you think? What do you think is going to come of this?
Well, there's a few ways to look and answer that question. And it's a great question, but there's a few ways to look at it. But one of the big things for me is that we have been so used to the fight, and I'm talking about the UFO community, trying to get people to talk about this, trying to get the mainstream media, trying to get the government involved, pushing and pushing and pushing. But it was our own little world, our own little fight. And now that it's out and it's being discussed like it is, it feels kind of strange in that our fight seems like it's over. And I don't want it to be that way. I want our old version back. I want to be the strange guy, and the community too as well, in that we are not normal. This is not a normal situation, and the mainstream media, their coverage of this is trying to normalize it, and it's anything but normal. And I think that we've lost sight of our original fight that we've been trying to get out there for so long. This is not normal. The way that the Department of Defense is talking about this, that they don't understand that there's something going on, but they don't understand. That is very, very strange, because we know that they know. We know that they know that we know that they know a lot. And by saying that they know nothing, and I'm going back to the UAPTF report, it's completely not true. We know that they've been investigating this and looking at this for a very long time, that there may be crash retrievals that have been going on. Are they backwards engineering it? Well, if they have stuff, certainly they've been doing that too as well. All of this is part of the discussion that needs to be had, and it's not. So I just feel like we need to back up a little bit, not relax. I'm talking about the UFO community, not relax at all. We need to keep the pressure up. We need to keep this out there. A very strange thing has happened, Chris, since June 25th, when the UAPTF report came out. There was that last little run of mass media coverage. And here we are now. We're going into August. July's now gone. We're here on August 2nd. The mainstream media has dropped it. Why cover it for 3.5, 4 years, and then suddenly it's gone? Wait a minute here. Is this the biggest moment in human history or not? Is the government working with this or not? Now, this is where I'm going to get direct. We wanted disclosure, the big D. We wanted the government. We wanted them to step forward. We wanted this to happen. And it seems like we've been pacified, that the government is assuming that this report is now released. It is now case closed. We're going to go back about our business. And I am shocked about the silence, this thing that is happening right now. I don't get it. I am in the middle of, and these are the facts, I'm in the middle of all of the players. Everybody that you see on TV, all of them, I'm in contact with them every single day. I talk to them, and I don't understand why the foot is off the gas. I'm a little bit perplexed about this. I will continue to do my thing. I will continue to interview the people that need to be interviewed. I will continue to support the community. But I said, and I meant this, I said this 3.5 years ago when TTSA started to do this launch, and obviously had a pretty good marketing company working with them, and they had a blank checkbook, and they were able to push this stuff out into the media. Great. I support it. It's being discussed. But I said then, we need to give this time. We need to wait about 2 or 3 years. In the future, we can look back and say, hey, do we trust the government? Do we trust what's going on, or is this something else? I don't know. I'm enjoying the moment, but I have the feeling that 3 years from now, we're going to have a different opinion about what is going on. Now, here we are 3 years later. TTSA is gone. Tom DeLonge is dropped off the radar. Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Steve Justice of Skunk Works have all left TTSA. They're out there doing their own things now. And everything that was left, the smoldering carbon boulder that used to be TTSA that is sitting there, where are they now? They drummed up all of these emotions with the UFO community and got the whole rah, and left us. I just don't get it. So I have to step back and say, hey, just maybe things aren't what they seem to be. Just maybe there was something else going on. I am only suggesting that, but time is on our side here. Now we can look back and analyze everything that is happening. You cannot put all of your trust in a government in a military establishment that has been ridiculing, teasing, and taking shots at members of this community and the community in general. And then suddenly they're our best friend, right? And I just don't dig that. It's too big of a question. It's too big of a subject. It's huge. It's probably the biggest news, the biggest story in all of human history. I can't think of anything bigger than that. We need to figure this out, and we've got to continue to move forward and not relax.
You're exactly right. And if anyone is going to keep questioning this, I would 100% believe that it'd be people in this community, people listen to shows like these. Now, as far as those people go, I think that there is a portion of that community with an even higher level of mistrust than normal. To where they're not trusting Lou Elizondo, they're not trusting some of these big mainstream players that you are connected with just because they had previous involvement with the military and government. And, they may not trust people that come out of these facilities because they think, once military, CIA, FBI, whatever, you're always going to be involved with this. And there could be a level of misinformation or disinformation coming out of this. What would you say to those people?
Well, the disinformation has also been wholly represented by what the Department of Defense has been doing over the last 3.5 years. Where on one hand, okay, this is where I'm here to break some hearts, but this is the truth. Those 3 videos that were released, the gimbal, the go fast, and the tic tac, those videos have been authenticated by the Navy as being real videos. They never said it was ET. There's no confirmation on that. Saying that they're classified as UAP says nothing. It says absolutely nothing. But the way that the spinsters out there will say, hey, UFOs are real. The government just said that the videos are real. That is a misrepresentation. And that's disinformation coming directly from the Department of Defense to those out there in the world that are looking to UFOs because they have an emotional connection. They've seen something. Maybe they feel that they've been abducted. Whatever it may be, they are here because of an emotional reason, and they're seeking answers. When you get this partial truth coming out of the Department of Defense, where cognitive dissonance comes into play for a lot of people, they don't want to see or hear about anything that would take them away from, these are UFOs in this video. These are UFOs. And then, this is only part of the story. And then they come out and they do a character assassination on their own. And I'm speaking about Lou Elizondo. Now, I've been critical about Lou and everybody else at TTSA for a long time because of the association with counterintelligence and the CIA and who the staff was at TTSA. Okay, but putting that aside, Lou Elizondo steps out, a former employee of the Department of Defense, and says that he was the director of ATIP, this secret, government Pentagon UFO group. They come out and say Lou had nothing to do with ATIP, wasn't part of his job assignment. That was the first character assassination. So who are we believing here? We've got a disinformation agent, a counterintelligence professional in Lou Elizondo. He's not hidden what his job was for the Department of Defense. He was a counterintelligence professional. Good for him. We need people like that in the military. But is he telling the truth, or is the Department of Defense telling the truth? Is Susan Gao, the spokesperson, speaking the truth? So now we have this problem. Next, all of his emails have been deleted. Now, wait a minute. You can't delete a counterintelligence professional who worked on 9/11, who worked at Guantanamo, is alleged to have directed a UFO study group, ATIP. You can't just say that he has no historical significance. He quit, so we just deleted his emails. There's no backup. That's not true. His emails are still there. So now we have this coming out, where now Lou is stuck in another strange position where he cannot back up some of his situations that he's been talking about because the government says they've deleted all of his emails. This is complete disinformation. So we have three. So I'll back up and say this one more time. Are you going to trust the government that has been attacking this community for a long time? Suddenly they're your best friend? Or are you going to wait and see how this plays out? It is now playing out in such dramatic fashion where the Pentagon is speaking out of both sides of their mouth. There is two different stories. You don't know which one to believe, but yet you're supposed to believe both. Is the Pentagon telling the truth here? Did they lie before, or were they telling the truth before, and are they lying now? But they've given us both sides. This is where I say, relax. We're going to see how this plays out, but you've got to get time and history on our side before moving forward. You just can't jump in the pond and start swimming and playing nice with the Pentagon when we know that they don't like us and they don't like us pushing this forward. They are sitting on secrets, and they were able to, this is the most crucial point, up until 1995, they controlled the agenda. They controlled the information. There wasn't any internet. There wasn't any resources. And that goes with schools and education and the media and everything else, right? They were in control, and anything that was released was something that they wanted us to know. Now, today, it's not that kind of party. We have access to information. We are able to share information. We are able to do research on our own. We are in control of this, and they know this. So now, by presenting both sides and having researchers and people in this community that are able to respond to this, Lou is able to respond on shows like mine. I'm able to pick up the phone, right? I can call Lou right now. We are on the air. I can call Lou on the air right now and say, hey, what's up? They haven't dealt with this before. The ability for shows like yours, shows like mine, and this immediate communication going out there to everybody. So I will continue to say, just relax. We are in a great position here, and we'll see how we move forward. And one last little thought. Leading up to the UAP Task Force report, there were a series of leaks that happened, and with videos and images. The videos, none of them showed anything. There was nothing of significance in the videos. That part doesn't matter. What matters is they were leaked. And then as they are being leaked, the power of suggestion goes out there that these are UFOs, that this is, our Navy is being invaded and our airspace. And so it goes out and the media picks up on the story. Who is leaking the videos? Then the government, the Pentagon comes out and says, hey, these videos are part of the UAP task force report. We can confirm that. Now, that's more disinformation. The videos don't show anything. They don't show any aliens unless aliens are cruising around at 40 miles per hour. I didn't see anything invasive. I didn't see anything threatening. I didn't see anything at all. But by that, the community and the mass media gets all in an uproar that there are flying toasters over the coast of Southern California, fleets of them. No, that wasn't the case. Again, very slick disinformation. And then the report comes out. There's no mention of anything. There's no mention of any videos. There isn't any mention of any specific cases or investigations. But yet they will say that these videos were part of the UAP task force report. Nobody was concerned about videos being leaked. If they were a part of this report, wouldn't you get your panties in a wad that somebody's leaking, the biggest information in human history, that it's being leaked out to the media? Who leaked it? And is there some responsibility there? It was total silence. Nobody cared. That's disinformation. So again, before you put your trust in the government, that they're here for disclosure, which didn't happen on June 25th. There was no mention of ETs. There was nothing there. That doesn't mean to say that the government doesn't know, because they do, but there wasn't disclosure. And we thought, not me specifically, but we thought that there would be.
Right. Now, I want to get to what I think is probably the most important aspect of all of this, and it's not going to be talked about in the mainstream media or from our government, and that's the consciousness and non-physical aspect. But before we get to that, I want to get your thoughts on the high-level members of government and the military that are terrified of this, that consider this a threat. I know some of the older folks even calling this a demonic type of phenomenon. So what would you say to that? For me, I think if they're a threat, they could have destroyed us 1,000 times over. But that's just me.
Well, that's the easiest way to look at it, because it's like Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is probably the correct one, in that you and I wouldn't be here right now doing this show. We wouldn't be having a conversation if somebody didn't want it to happen. We wouldn't even know. In that, it would just end, right? The world would just end. We wouldn't even know that it ended.
Right, yeah.
So that's really the truth. But the other part of it is, when we say, why now? Why now? Why is this conversation happening? All of it. The Department of the Defense, the Senate Intelligence Committee, Marco Rubio. Why is this happening now? Why is Lou Elizondo able to speak about this? Why is, and Chris Mellon, why, and they're not the only ones, but, the pilots, the crew members, everything. Why now? My guess is, this is my guess, but with all of the telescopes, the radar telescopes, the satellites that we have, and the observations that we are doing out into deep space, not only throughout our own Milky Way, but the rest of the universe, science is doing their mad search. And this is also for extraterrestrial life. Avi Loeb just did his Galileo project announcement last week, and that's pretty exciting. But I believe that our government knows about something that is about to bust off. They know something is coming. Now, it could be a variety of different things, but none of it is in their control. In that they may be monitoring a craft that is approaching our star system, and it's not going to be here for a year or 2 years. Maybe they've been tracking it for 5 years. Maybe ET has let them know we're going to arrive on, August 2nd, 2022. It just may be something as simple as that. And they're trying to get us acclimated. They're trying to get the conversation going. They want us to understand that we are not alone in the universe, and throwing this out there. The other part is science is pushing so hard to find intelligent life out there. It is one of their goals. It's one of their daily goals. Exoplanets and being able to look inside and observe atmospheres. The Webb telescope is about to launch, and it will be doing just that. Looking for signs of life on these distant planets. All of this is out of the government's control. Now, could it also be that there is a trove of information that may be released? That maybe a white hat, maybe there's a hack, maybe there is a lone gunman out there inside of the government that has pulled files out. Maybe they're battling with this guy. He's threatening to release these files. All of this out of the government's control. And the way to get in front of this big event is to do what they're doing right now, to get this conversation going. It's been so effective, Chris, that my family knows what I do for a job. Okay? They know what I do. They know what I talk about. They know how I pay my bills. But they don't talk to me about UFOs ever. We have dinners, we this and that, and we never talk about UFOs. December 2017 happens, and my sister-in-law sitting at the table, who's never mentioned UFOs, she goes, "So, we're not alone." I was like, okay. She goes, "Of course we're not alone. The universe is too big." Now, we ended up talking about UFOs for 2 or 3 hours that night, but the point being, she was very knowledgeable. She never talked to me about this. She's an example of the rest of the world. We're smarter today than we were 30 years ago. And we will always continue as individuals to get smarter every single day. We know a lot about a lot. We have access to all of the world's history and information. It's right in front of us on the internet. And we know that the universe is too big. The Milky Way is too big. We know that there's planets up next to every star that's out in the sky. When you go out at night and you look up and you wonder how many planets are out there. Well, we now know today that every single star that you see has a planet or 2 or 10 next to it. We're not alone. That's it. We understand that today. And the shock of all of this didn't happen. The UAP task force report, did the Vatican collapse? No. Marco Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee, them talking about this, did the world freak out? No. Conversations with Tucker Carlson every single night on Fox, did people freak out and lose their minds? They didn't. Why? Because they're not stupid. They know that we're not alone. Is the big event that everybody is kind of expecting, a giant starship cruiser over Manhattan or over Los Angeles or over Moscow or over London.
Or the White House.
Well, yeah, exactly. Independence Day. Is that going to freak people out? Maybe. But if a flying saucer, I live in Los Angeles, and if a flying saucer comes down and lands on the 405 freeway at 5 p.m. in the middle of rush hour at the busiest intersection in the world, which is the 405 and the 101, right? And blocks traffic. Okay, people are going to be freaked out for about 10 or 15 minutes. But then you're going to have people getting out of their cars going, "Get that thing off the freeway. I got to get home." You're blocking traffic. And that's where we are today. People understand it. Yeah, okay, we may freak out for a couple of minutes, but we're going to move on. And the greatest question has been answered. Whew, we can relax, but it's not going to be the big freak out that everybody expected. And it hasn't been that way for 3.5 years.
Now let's talk about what I consider the biggest part of this, and you're not going to hear the mainstream media or our government talking about consciousness linked to UFOs and the non-physical aspect of this, which I've experienced myself. And now we're seeing people communicating with ET or whatever this is through meditation. People are having all kinds of non-physical experiences that can't be explained through the nuts and bolts theories. People going through walls, being taken in their sleep, experiencing fascinating experiences off planet with what appear to be extraterrestrial beings. Now this kind of changed my whole view of this. From the nuts and bolts side, and I have no idea what we're dealing with. Even though I'm an experiencer myself, I don't claim to know anything about the phenomenon at all. I just do know that there is a huge connection with our consciousness, and which is also linked to everything else. And I think that's what kind of gets people in these high-level government positions a little nervous is that they can't explain this, that there is this larger connection, this spiritual connection that they can't explain. And I think that that's what gets a lot of people nervous about this as well, is that there's this huge, I can only say spiritual, phenomenon that is connected with this. I'd like to get your thoughts on this and how it could all be connected.
A great question. And when I started to talk to different people about this aspect of it, I was always leaning. I'm a dude. I like airplanes. I like helicopters. I like cars. I like guitars. Right. I like things, and I always pictured in my mind's eye, a UFO with some dude in there at the controls, and some cool flying saucer, which does happen for sure. But the whole consciousness connection side of it is starting to go a little bit too woo-woo at the time for me. And I would have I have here in the bunker, I've got I've got night vision equipment, I've got those military lasers, and I've got all that stuff. And close friend of mine said, hey, so we're out there, and somebody said, flash that guy 3 times with your laser. He'll flash you back. And he goes, Jimmy, so I flashed it 3 times. Bup, 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 and the dang thing just flashed back 3 times. I'm like, man, save all that, right? Okay. Until it happened. Till it happened to me. And suddenly I realized that there is a direct, telepathy, consciousness, I don't, entanglement, non-locality. I don't know what the heck is going on, but this stuff started to happen to me personally. And that changes your whole worldview when it comes to this. The other aspect is something is appearing and disappearing in front of us. So is it from another dimension? Is it some kind of stealth covering? Is it a plasma ship? There's nothing metallic and is appearing. Is it something that is appearing because of spirituality and they just want to wink at us and say, yo, what's up? We're here. Is it that? It's kind of like, for me, all of the above, because I've also had sightings, and of course, I'm not going to go into the full story about the beer can, but I was with 20 or 30 people in the middle of the day, and this giant, I mean, huge, 400 or 500 foot tall beer can, it's miles away, but it's spinning like this, and it's just going across. What? And then it phased out, disappeared in the middle of the blue sky at 3 p.m. And I thought we were going to watch this thing for hours. It was moving so slow. It was a tremendously cool event, but it just disappeared. Now, wait a minute. Did that appear because we were looking? Was it just for me? Kinda. and it just disappeared. Wait a minute. So that's when we have to back up and start to think about what is it that is actually going on here, right? I didn't feel threatened. It was huge, but I didn't feel threatened. But there are people that are in positions of power that go to church on Sunday. They've been raised a certain way. They have their own philosophical beliefs and their own religious beliefs. And we're not going to change their opinions. We're not going to change their lifestyle, their thoughts. We're not. And the more that you tell them that it's something else, the more that their belief system is strengthened. They don't bend. They don't change their mind. In fact, those core values that I'm speaking about get stronger. So if there are people in the military, at the CIA, in politics that feel that this may be demonic, that's the way that they feel about it. It's not going to change. I had Tom DeLonge on the show. He's only done a couple of interviews, and I was lucky to be one of those two that he's ever done, and it was a great conversation. And I think we did the interview before TTSA. It was in 2016.
It was early. I remember that.
Yeah. But one of the things that he said in that interview that stuck with me over all these years was that we need to be careful about reaching out to these things consciously and drawing them in, because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're in contact with. And there are people in the military that know that there is a religious connection to this, and that they know that this is demonic. Now, I'm not saying that this is a fact that they are demonic. I'm saying that their belief system is what it is. So to them, they know, right? They know this is what they believe. And it is very interesting, not only about that idea being thrown out there, but as we move through this, and we, again, to say it again, as we wade through the waters with the Pentagon on this, that if that's the way that they are going to approach it, this is the way that they are going to approach it. No matter what the evidence is that is laid out in front of them, it's not going to change their belief system. So as this information is coming out from the Pentagon, you got to think about the mindset of those. Now, when we jump back to our community, okay, so I don't think that there's too many people in our community that are going to say that this is demonic, right?
Well, there's a small portion, but you're right. Majority wouldn't. Yeah.
But, and that's where the but is. Not everybody's experience is a good one.
Right.
Not everybody's experience has been, with unicorns and fairies, with the UFO and ET phenomenon. That's certainly true. And to those that have been terrified, that have been through a bad experience, for them it wasn't fun, and they don't want to have it happen again. We need to listen to them. My experience has been amazing. I've never felt threatened. I've never felt scared. I have been out with large groups of people, and we have had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 sightings in a night that are just completely unexplainable. But I'm laughing. I'm having a good time. I'm not meditating. Oh, my ET brothers, we want you to. I'm not doing that. I'm like, man, let's break out the pastrami sandwiches. Let's have some Dr. Peppers, and let's play some music, and let's have a good time doing this. And that's always been my approach. I want it to be a positive, because I'm having fun. I'm out. I'm really having fun. And ask anybody that has been out with me, and I've done it. I have no idea how many times, but ask anybody that has been with me on those nights, and it sounds like a frigging, Journey concert in 1982. It's loud. We are screaming when something happens. We react, and we have a good time doing it. I've never had a bad experience. So it reminds me of there was a really cool video game called I want to get this right. I think it was called Kill All Humans, and great video game. It's about you could be ET in a flying saucer and fly over San Francisco.
Oh, I think I'm remembering that now.
Yeah, it was a great, man. It was amazing. But I've never seen a kill all humans moment, right? I haven't seen the flying saucer cruise over me with plasma cannons going off. And if that's what they wanted to do, they would do it. I'm going to say this about the consciousness aspect of this. I think there's a lot to be said about benevolent versus malevolent ETs and contact experiences. That's just, I can only speak about myself. But Isaac Arthur, the physicist, who's been on Fade to Black many times, he covers this constantly, contact and what it would be and who could be out there. But he said one thing that really struck home. He said, if ET wanted to destroy this planet, they wouldn't inject a virus. They wouldn't plasma laser. They would, no, that's too much work. All they would do is approach Earth at the speed of light and hit the brakes and let their garbage go. That's what they would do. And the garbage would hit Earth at the speed of light, and we would be stardust. That's it. There isn't any crazy plan about, viruses or landing and lasers and fighting armies. And that's too much work. Man, they would just drop their garbage and Earth would be gone. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Yeah, it does make sense, and it's funny. But I want to take a look at let's play devil's advocate and look at some of the darker sides of this, like some of the abductions where people have been terrified and, they're getting experiments done to them. They can't move. They're on a table. They have these terrifying looking beings. Some of them are extracting sperm, eggs, DNA, whatever, and some of it's actually painful for people. And they come back traumatized from these. Some of them say that, they even meet some of their hybrid children later. Those are mixed experiences. But, when you look at that, people are being taken against their will. That's not so nice. And there's some other not so nice aspects about this that could make you look at it as maybe some of these guys are a threat,
Right. And I'm going to squash all of that. Squash. There's nothing terrifying about it. It sucks. But what do we do? What do we do as humans every single day?
Oh, man, it gets disgusting.
We go into the jungles of the Amazon. We grab the mom of something, throw it in a cage, remove her from her family. We traumatize her kids, whatever. It could be whatever it is. And then we bring it back into a lab. We throw her on the table. We kill her, dissect her, cut her open to see what's inside. You know what? I think she was pretty friggin' traumatized. And what about her family but we don't see anything wrong with that, do we? No, we do not. When we walk outside, and you're walking through your grass after a nice summer rain, and you're squishing and killing worms and bugs. Just walking. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But think about, right? No! And getting squished. We don't see anything wrong with that, do we? How about when we walk out in our backyard? We got guests coming over. We got a cookout happening soon. Break out the bug spray. We don't see anything wrong with that. Killing butterflies, killing insects. We don't see anything wrong with that. Put up a bug zapper in the backyard and we sit there and listen to it and laugh every time it goes. We don't see anything wrong with that, right? Mouse traps. We don't see anything wrong with a mouse trap, crushing a mouse head. We don't see anything wrong with that. Now, I'm not saying any of that is right, but we don't have any issues with that. So if something that is a million years more advanced than us, how are they looking at us really? Are we smart? Are we no, but we certainly would be interesting. Let's see what's going on. They are so much more advanced than us. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying think about what we do on a daily basis, and we don't have any issues with it at all, right? And that's it. Now, does that mean that Whitley Strieber, who's going to be a guest on my show tonight, who went through a very traumatic experience, and I've talked to him about it many times, both privately and on the air, he didn't enjoy it. And he certainly faced the public for many, many years after that. It certainly wasn't a fun experience, but it is what it is. It's not in our control. I don't want to be kidnapped, abducted, and dissected on some ET's table on a flying saucer on its way to Zeta Reticuli. That would suck. It would be a horrible way to go. But we do it every single day. We're doing it as you and I speak right now. There is something going on somewhere. Some anthropologist, some biologist. I was around. I'll just say it. I lived on an army base down in Central America, and on this army base, which was on the Pacific Ocean, was a Smithsonian Institute laboratory. I walked by it every day. It was out on the thing, and I could look. And what are they doing in there? And they're getting fish and octopus and this and that, dissecting and cut and trap and pulling things out of the ocean and taking it out of their environment and throwing it into a tank and observing it and doing their thing. Is that cool? No. That fish is traumatized, right? That octopus is traumatized. That squid is traumatized. That shark, whatever it is, right, is traumatized. But we're okay with that. Doesn't make any sense. So, look, I'm not making any excuses for it, but we just have to put it in our own little mind here. What is it that we do all the time, right? Okay. I'm just leaving it at that.
No, that was an excellent point, and I agree with you 100%. Now, but whatever these things are, they apparently have a great interest in the human race. There's theories that they may have created us, or at least added to our DNA or tinkered with it. So there's a lot that we could, many different directions we could go with that. But what do you think? How deep do you think the interest goes with these beings and the human race? Do you think that there's a connection of creation there?
I do. And without, we don't have a whole lot of time, but we have to look at a couple of different things. And one of them is just simple chemistry. The same 20 amino acids that make up a chromosome in our DNA and RNA are the same chemicals and chemistry that are in any spot in the universe. They don't have different. There isn't a different form of carbon or another atom. Particles are particles, atoms are atoms. It's the same. They only combine so many different ways. So DNA in its basic form is everywhere. Everywhere. There's been examples of meteorites landing here on Earth that have those same simple sugars on them that make up RNA and DNA. And these are cruising around the universe and impacting planets. So that's one thing. But the other part of this is probably the most dramatic, which is Homo sapien sapien, us, you and I, just appeared here about 200,000 years ago. We just showed up. Just showed up. We've got a different chromosome count. Primates have 48 chromosome pairs. We have 46. Wait a minute. How? What? Stop with that. And you would think that primates, because they have all the extra information in those two chromosome pairs, that they should be the ones inventing the internet today. They're not. As a matter of fact, they're still living in trees. We, in a very short amount of time, dominated this planet and did everything that we have done in a very short amount of time. How did that happen? Now, if we just think about the basics, we were just put here. That's it. That's it. It wasn't a lightning strike on some some chemicals on a crystal in a creek bed, and then suddenly DNA, our right. DNA was, no, which is what science wants us to believe, by the way. It wasn't that. The easiest way, I think history is going to show this out in the long term, is that we were just placed here. We were put here. How it happened, don't know. Was it by ET? Was it from, a meteorite from another planet where we already were and the DNA is there and it just shows? I don't know. But we are the only ones. We are not Cro-Magnon. We are not Neanderthal. We're not any of that. We are Homo sapien sapien, completely unique, and that's it. I truly believe that we were just placed here, and I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. And I'm okay with a few other theories that are going around. I'm not going to claim to know or stick with one right now, because I think that we need a lot more research and take a deeper look into that. But before we close, Jimmy, you kind of alluded to that most of the population would be ready to hear that there's life besides us here on this little planet. But what about the aspect that they created us, and that there's this huge consciousness and spiritual aspect that most people on our planet don't really understand yet? Do you think they're ready for that?
Of course they are, and we're being prepped for that. That very idea is what is being laid out there. When you hear that announcement from the Vatican 5 years ago was a game changer. When they said, of course we're not alone in the universe. And when ET gets here, he's going to get baptized too. Right? And to say something like that, and it's a way of just planting that seed, just letting you know that God is everywhere. God, he's the creator, and Jesus is in Zeta Reticuli, just like he's here, and that. But it's a very interesting planting of the seed. If you really think about why they would say that, because not only is it the biggest religion in the world, right? Okay, so you've got to control the masses somehow. And you've got to throw the suggestion out there now. You can't have people surprised. And at the very same time, it's going on in all of the other segments. All of the atheists out there, all of those scientists out there, all those atheist, agnostic physicists out there that don't believe in anything spiritual or anything woo-woo. But they are telling you, yeah, we're not alone. There's a lot of life out there. So that's being taken care of. We've got the military and that conversation going on. We've got the political wing happening. We've already got us in the UFO community, and it's all happening at the same time. Every single angle, every single approach has been covered in the last 5 years. It's an amazing thing to see happen.
Yes, it is. We're living in really fascinating times right now. I can't wait to see what's going to come out of the next few years. It's great. Jimmy, Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today. It was fantastic. For the audience, you said Whitley Strieber coming on tonight. What's up for the rest of the week?
Oh, let's see here. Tonight, Whitley Strieber. Tomorrow night, Mark Sims is going to be on with us. He's amazing. It's the first time he's been on the show with us. And then Wednesday night is Peter Robbins. Love Peter, and one of the great researchers out there. And he's going to be on with us. And Peter, okay, so this is what we're doing. Tonight, Whitley and I are just talking about ET, which is something he never does. So that's tonight. Tomorrow night with Mark Sims is social media and the internet and the UFO conversation and what has been happening with that and the power of social media. He's an internet pioneer. He has been a part of Silicon Valley and things since the beginning. And his take on all of this, because he's an experiencer too as well. So that's happening tomorrow night. And then Wednesday night, it's like 3 different nights. Wednesday night, Peter Robbins, who not only has been a part of the UFO community as a researcher and a very prolific author for a long time, he's now a show host as well as a researcher, but his involvement with all aspects of the UFO question and trying to get answers, it's been his life's journey, his hero's journey. So I'm going to have Peter on Wednesday night to talk about Peter and what drives him. Not necessarily sensational cases. He's got great stories to share with the life of just chasing answers. And then Thursday night, of course, we have open lines, and it's my favorite night of the week. But that's it, and that's my week here, and it's just another week down. We have we've been doing this for many, 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 many years. I'm thankful and appreciative to the audience that we have built and the community that not only supports Fade to Black, but the community that supports itself. And I will always be here for them. And with that, seriously, Chris, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. We've got a long road in front of us, my friend.
Yes, we do. Thank you again, Jimmy. I'd love to have you back on in the future.
You've got my email.
All
I think
right,
you
brother.
have my phone number, which is even scarier. Everybody.
All right. Have a good one. Till next time, have an excellent evening.